All right. Welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me, Zero, here with,
Tension.
and unfortunately, that's it. Yeah, everybody else was kind of busy and stuff, or for one reason or another. But oh well, hopefully it'll be a good podcast anyway. Um,
Maybe people will join in. We'll see.
we'll see. Yeah, we don't know exactly what's going on right now. Um, but anyway, this episode of Zi-O, yeah, it was another really good episode, which for this show, I mean, yeah, it took a while, but it seems like it's finally hitting its stride. Like, I think this was probably like the best episode, if not one of the best. I mean, it's either one of the best or the best episode because it actually utilized everyone in the show. Your thoughts overall on this episode, Henshin?
I liked it, although it may be just because I'm a little dumb, but I'm having trouble decoding Gates's motivations. So I'll be trying to work through that as we do the podcast.
Yeah, sorry, so many controls. Yeah, it's Gates was actually really interesting. I think it's his motivation in this is more like basically throughout the whole episode I think it's us just like questioning or him just questioning what he should do to be a good guy sort of thing, and not like, well, technically I just want to stop Amazio, so I should do whatever the hell it takes to do that. But then like he's that's basically what White Waz is saying. And then he starts doing that, but like he feels bad, then he decides to do his own thing, which is like, well, we don't actually know if the freaking, like, we need the writer's powers to beat the villain, right? So what if the writer beats the villain? Because we've never seen that happen. So he was basically rolling the
Yeah.
dice. That was interesting. Um, yeah, so I think his whole story arc in this episode and like the last one was kind of just like, what does it mean to be like a good guy and like stopping Amazio? Like, how far would he go? And it shows in this episode, like, at the end of the day, he doesn't have all the answers, but like he's still a good guy at the end, right? Like he's not just the ends justify the means kind of guy. Um,
No, White Waz is very much a ends justify the means guy, and the way he talks about Gates Revive, I have a sneaking suspicion Gates Revive it might be just as bad as Omazeo is in his timeline. So
yeah,
clearly Gates wants Mondo to get some closure about his father's feelings for his mother, and that can't happen if his powers as a rider and also loses his memory. The Ride Watch gets created by Waz in the end anyway. Mondo does get closure and he doesn't lose his powers as a rider, so it was overall trying to do the right thing.
yeah, that was interesting. As for yeah, like, I mean, that was Gates revived. It's interesting, yeah. Um, I think it's more like Omazio and Gates revived seems like the future selves, where they've basically just cut out all the BS of themselves trying to be heroes. So like I feel like Omazio is like, yeah, okay, I'm the fucking king. I'm basically a tyrant, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's better me on top than anybody else, right? So like it cut out all Sogo's like, oh, I'm actually trying to be a good guy crap, and like they just ripped that right out, and that's what Amazio seems like. And as for Gates Revive, it seems like he's just a guy who's like, yeah, I tried being this hero and changing the future, it didn't work out. Like the ends justify the means. Like he ended up becoming that guy. So it's basically like both like Zio and Gates like throwing the heroic side away to become like to like accomplish their goals, but like they kind of become like semi villains. I also like how like White Wall says like, okay, yeah, you fuck up a little bit in the future too. I don't think he's as bad as Omazio, like for the world,
Probably not,
but
but
he's
we haven't seen that future yet, so we can't really guess what it might be.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, it might be that like here's the thing, like Omazio seems like an okay guy. It's just he fucked up the world. Whereas like Gates Revive might be an asshole, but like the world might be not as damaged. Like I don't know, he might be a military dictator. I don't know. But the thing is like he probably didn't wipe out like half the damn human population, right? Um so yeah, we haven't seen it. Um especially because like white, like the most interesting thing is like how different like black was and white was are, where it's like black was is just like, hey, okay, this is what you want, demon lord, I'll do what you say. And white was is like, you're an idiot, Gates, like fucking listen to what I have to what I'm telling you and the future will work out, right? So he's way more like pushy. um which again, like without seeing his future, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what that's like, how bad of a future that is. It could just be like he's way more determined. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting. Um,
Yeah. My question about White Waz is, did he start out as Black Waz and become White Waz? Like, did he like realize, hey, wait a minute, Omazeo sounds really bad. I should work for the other guy. Don't know much about him at all. Or regular Waz. We have no idea how their upbringing was like and what led them to choose their respective people to work for. Thing
yeah,
to see.
it would be interesting. Like at first, I'm like, okay, is this like some weird thing of like, oh, you're like Omazio's kid or something? But like, then Whitewash showed up. I'm like, that's not possible because like the whole thing of like Omazio, I mean like Gates survived is he pretty much freaking murdered Sogo, right? Like that's the only way that future changes. To so I'm like, it can't be like Sogo's kid, like Waz can't be that then. Or especially like White Waz, like yeah, as for being like, did he switch sides, I feel like he's just some guy that these guys both saw in their past and it's like, okay, this person's pretty helpful, so whenever they take power they're like, okay, better to have this guy on my side than fight against him. So they just like both recruited him. I That's my theory. It's just like they were both brought up in two different timelines, so they have super different personalities.
Yeah, that's probably the case. I haven't given my thoughts on Quiz yet. Even though the suit is really ugly, I love the concept, the character, the little bit of backstory they give him. Mondo and quizzes like the sounds of that overall. It's so interesting. Like the future writers have such interesting concepts, and you see so little of them, and already the fans are gushing over them.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like,
And some people,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like Shinobi is really cool to see in action, but like he had like an okay first episode, not so second episode. Um, I mean, I guess his actor did a really good job, but like as for the writer himself, like he didn't get too much action besides the first episode. As for Quiz got like
yeah,
really good development in both of his episodes. Yeah, that's what like. The writing has been really good for the feature writers. Maybe he'll get another little show or like mini series, just like
being a special already.
yeah, that's what,
Um,
like Shinobi got like a special for like the Toei app, like how Brave got one. But that special said part one, so I'm like, okay, so either Shinobi gets another thing or they're gonna add Quiz, and that'll be another part, which would be cool.
yeah,
Yeah, like I like Shinobi's personality. He's kind of like, basically he's got like the cockiness and like skill of Kabuto. I mean, maybe not as extreme, but like you can kind of get that vibe that he's that type of character, like Kabuto or Decade or something. Um, but he seems like a decent human being, and like his like it's so interesting. Like within like the first like 5 minutes, you see like Shinobi and Quiz, like you get like, okay, this is their thesis statement, right? Like this is basically what Decade should have been, where it's like you get a guy and they do like a small introduction to him, right? And you basically figure out his personality and what he's fighting for, right? And it's like Decade wasn't that. It was a little too meta for its own good. Um,
I haven't seen Decade, although I might eventually go back to that.
like
Like maybe after Skasa pops up in the show again, because he will.
yeah, probably. I mean, like I don't know. Maybe he was gonna show up in the movie. I don't know. Considering that like Zi-O has like the double armor and all that stuff, like this is all after the movie, so who knows if he'll show up? But I mean, it's likely Decade will show up. Um,
I'm
he,
pretty sure they're like I've only seen the trailer for the movie because obviously it hasn't come out for us yet, but I'm pretty sure that they're not even going to address the realizing that they only exist inside a fictional television show and the implications of that at all. And that is fine.
yeah, I mean it's fine. I think the whole thing with that is like maybe they just messed around with the timeline so much it just ended up creating our world as like a weird alternate universe in theirs. Yeah, who knows? Like
Who
without seeing them,
knows?
yeah, without seeing the movie, it's really hard to tell. As for like a quiz, I actually like for the most part, I like his suit. I just don't like the question mark on his head. But outside of that, everything like it's not the greatest suit, but like he like the way they've shot it in action, I could kind of buy it. So I'm fine with that. As for like the actual acting and stuff, like again, like Shinobi and Quiz, both of their actors did a really good job. Like fucking everybody in this damn episode did a really good job. Which
Yeah. Sogo acting dumb but actually realizing what Gates wanted to do. I like that character quirk of Sogo where you think he's an idiot, but then he's like, ah, but now I prove I am not an idiot. And I'm like, oh, okay. Good to know that King. Good to be reminded the future Demon King has a good amount of cunning and is actually not dumb.
yeah, I mean,
Demon King.
yeah, yeah, Demon King. My thing with that is like I always kind of feel like it's like, oh right, you're the protagonist. Of course you're gonna figure it out. So like that part, I was like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of obvious that you'll figure it out, but I never feel like Soga's actually figuring it out. It's more like, oh, I read the script. Um, but
They probably addressed that in one of the point fives.
oh, I don't even know.
Name those.
I don't watch those. Um, but like but like the rest of it was pretty good. Like, um, anything not like basically him figuring out Gates' plan. Like, yeah, it's pretty obvious, but it's like I still don't feel like Soga would have 100% figured it out. But then again, he's not super stupid, so it's fine. Um, but everything else he did in the episode was great. Where he's like, oh, he figures out what like Quiz's deal is. I mean, like Mondo's deal is, and like he has that talk with Tsukiyomi, and like Gates has that talk with Tsukiyomi, and like Tsukiyomi is like, oh man, like everybody got such good development. Like Gates and Tsukiyomi actually acting like brother and sister for goddamn once. I mean, like they've been doing it in the last couple episodes, but like
And
finally,
sister, how did I not get this before?
what?
Are they siblings?
Yeah, they're siblings. They're it's in the first episode.
Somehow I didn't know that. Okay. Good
Yeah.
to know now.
Yeah, it's a little weird. That's again like it's weird because they haven't been focusing on it except like the very first episode. It's like, oh hey, uh, you know, because Tsukiyomi comes out and it's like, Like my brother basically stole the belt and went back in time to pretty much murder your ass, and I'm here to stop him. Um, right?
Okay, I didn't catch that. It was, but then again, it was one line, so
Yeah, it's
happening
basically
in that first episode.
it's true.
Okay.
Um, the thing is, like, yeah, they like basically this episode built a lot of interesting stuff. Like, White was his character, where he's like he's not super like loyal. Like even he even says like, yeah, just like you don't trust me, I don't entirely trust you either, right?
Yeah,
And he like
that was a good line.
and he smacks Gates around. I'm like, holy shit, okay, man. Like the future Gates probably got shit done, but he's probably an asshole if this is the guy he sent back. Um, and then like right, like Mondo having like that thing, like he has to deal with his dad. That was pretty good, like really good emotional stuff. And then Tsukuyomi and Gates and all, and like maybe Sogo too. I mean, Sogo had like interesting points, but like it's more that like he had interesting points when he was talking to Tsukuyomi and Mondo, but like whenever he's talking to Gates, it's like, you're just doing generic writer shit. Um, which was fine. At least he got to show a little more acting range. Um,
How you can subtly see Gates slowly, against his better judgment, starting to trust Sogo and be less and feel conflicted. Like, I need to defeat him for the future to be better, but I've kind of become his friend. Not that I'll ever admit that. I like that development for him.
yeah, I agree.
Have
Like
just been a one note character, but they developed him.
exactly. Like I feel like he's finally come into his own, where it's like he's got plots and he feels like he's part of the crew because he keeps running out all the time, so it's really hard for him to like feel like he's getting along with everyone. But like in this episode, I finally feel like, yeah, like he realizes that, like, he's actually friends with Sogo, and right, like he wants to change the future, but he doesn't want to do it like the way White was is doing it. But like he can't just
Hmm.
deny that the future will either come true or change beyond his control if he doesn't do anything. So it's very interesting seeing like his development. I mean, it's basically it's kind of weird because he's so much like he's literally just Ren from Ryuki in a different show. Um, so it's kind of hard to tell like how much is it on like the writing that's being done on here, or is it how much we're literally just playing Ren's plot. Um, Plus like Gates' actor, like he's good, but he's not as good as Ren's actor. So it's kind of hard to tell like how good of a job they're doing, but like structurally, it's the show is getting a lot more solid altogether. So I would say he's like helping, like he's doing an okay job, but it's so hard to tell like how good of a job he's doing because he's literally doing almost the exact same thing that like Ren did. So
I
it's
haven't seen Ryuki, so I can't judge.
okay. Yeah. So like Gates is doing a good job, but like this is almost the exact same story arc as like the secondary writer of Ryuki. Um, his was a little bit better um, done, but like everybody in Ryuki is a little bit better because they didn't have to deal with like the clunky like anniversary stuff or like all the widgets and like power ups and stuff that we have to deal with nowadays. So they had more character time. But like acting wise, he's doing a really good job um, in this show. Right. The interesting.
Go has improved.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, improved like character and writing wise since episode one.
Yeah, he's. I feel like this is what this show should have been from the beginning. So it's like we're finally seeing the potential of this show realize, which took a while, but at least like in this episode, it's like okay, everything's finally in place, and like you see it all going at once, and it's like wow, the show could have actually been really good, if we didn't mess around. Especially with like the last episode was decent. This episode's really good. Next episode looks to be really freaking good. So it's like wow. Okay, I hope it just keeps going like this because like
Yeah.
it could actually become a really interesting show if it keeps this pace up. Um, Especially because we got like
Yeah.
random lore stuff with like White Waz and like Gates revived, which whatever the hell White Waz did. It's like, was that a flashback or did you like infect some memory into Gates's head with that? I don't know what the hell was going on there. Any thoughts?
That Gates Revive might be like a berserker form for Gates, or that your infect memories kind of thing. That my guess is that form kind of his mind, so he just is suddenly about I'm going to defeat right now and nothing else matters. So I think that's why trying to get him to get the form, obviously to defeat Zi-O, but also so that Gates doesn't have any pesky doubts about doing so.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it does seem pretty interesting. Like as you said, it could be just um like that powered up form from Built. Damn it, I don't remember any names.
Hazard.
Hazard Trigger. Yes. That would be
Hazard Trigger, which is, and I'm like, that is an interesting example to use because that's the one where Sento killed a guy and then had massive trauma. Those episodes, those physically hurt.
uh, yeah, but the acting in those episodes were fucking amazing. Um, that's the thing. It's like okay, I don't want to do this because like it's not fair, but like if we go like acting beat to acting beat, like I think Build had like much better acting, but then again, like Build also had a chance for the actors to actually emote, whereas so far, I mean, like not like the last couple episodes, but before that, most of it was just like very generic writer stuff. So like you didn't really have the core cast have time to stretch their acting skills, whereas you did have those moments in Build. Uh, we'll see if anything like that happens in this show. But what we do have is lore or interesting elements where it's like Black Watch just shows up and it's like, hey, uncle dude, shop owner person, can you fix this watch? And it's basically a switch. I mean, not a switch. Yeah, whatever. They're like henshin device things. Um, and then I'm like, holy shit.
Watches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, holy shit, did this suddenly turn into Wizard where it's like, okay, I'm just like a regular dude, but I have this weird ability to work on like insane rider tech for some reason? I'm like, wow.
Gogo's uncle, I'm like, is he only pretending to be dumb? Is he in on something? Does he know what's going on, or is he just as dumb as the show presents him?
Like I don't see him as being dumb. Like I see him as being like a really nice guy. But yeah, you're right. Like he does tend to ignore a lot of stuff, but I'm like that tends to happen in a lot of writer shows. But here's the interesting thing. If he turns out to be just like some random guy and he's just a nice human being who has the ability to work on writer tech, then he's just Wajima from Wizard. If he turns out that he's faking it, um, then we kind of get into an interesting situation where it's like, okay, who are you? Are you White Wizard or are you like Sukasa's uh, uncle, grandpa? I think from. I mean, like no, Natsumi's grandpa from what? Oh, you haven't seen Decade, right?
No.
Yeah. So like basically like Ryder has this whole thing of like basically since the original, they always have like, oh, this is where the writers hang out, and it's usually like somebody's house or usually like a cafe or something, right? And that started with the original with
Mhm.
Tachibana and stuff, and we've been running with that ever since. So in Decade, they basically travel, like they basically
Yeah.
jump worlds, but they jump in their little like camera shop. Is basically sort of like their TARDIS. It just like they switch into a different world, but like the house stays the same, or it stays there. So like yeah, it's basically Decade, Natsumi, and like Natsumi's grandfather, I think. Yeah, and then like he actually in one of the movies he becomes like the main villain. So it's kind of one of those weird situations. It's like, what the hell? If he turns out to be a bad guy, that'd be a really weird callback. Um, because like all
What
the
if he is the guy in Sogo's dream?
that's what I was thinking. So I'm like, yeah, it's either he's straight up evil, or if he's the guy in the dream, which means he's the guy who's behind all this, then it turns into like a wizard situation with White Wizard, where it's like he's the guy who set this all up for his own reasons. I'm like, oh, that's he's too nice. I don't want that to be the case. Um, but like, yeah, exactly. Like we have three examples of who this could be. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's also interesting that Black was basically had the mid-season power up on him pretty much all the time. Or I'm guessing
Yeah.
he just
I'm like,
decided
you
to
could
hold
have
up.
given that to Sogo earlier.
Yeah, that's true. I think
Maybe
that
this is the one that gives Sogo his power up.
yeah, I'm thinking that is what's gonna happen. Like, I think the reason is because like Sogo didn't really need it. Like, this is the first time like Quiz came and kicked his ass, and then like Gates came and kicked his ass, and then like
Yes.
White was also
Why-
kicked his ass. So he's like he literally cannot compete now. I mean, he could if he was trying harder, but like I think this is what should have happened to begin with, because like the time that he beat Gates in the O's episodes was so jarring, because it's like you shouldn't be this strong. Whereas like Gates beating him this episode, I'm like, yeah, that's what should normally happen. Like Gates is a better fighter than you, right? Like it's the one thing he's good at. Like let him at least kick your ass. Um, Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm thinking that's the only reason that like he's giving the power up now. It's because he literally lost to three riders in a row. Um, Plus, White Waz is probably freaking out Black Waz super hard, because it's like I don't know what the hell is going on, but like everything that asshole does is screwing up my plans. Um, yeah, he's interesting.
At one point, I'm like, would White Waz kill Black Waz? I'm like, if he had a chance, but I don't know if they're gonna do that at this point in the story.
Yeah, I
Maybe later down the line.
maybe
Maybe.
maybe. I feel like Black Waz wouldn't kill White Waz unless like somebody really ordered him to, and it's not gonna be Amazio because that
And the
feats.
other way around, White Waz killing Black Waz.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's um, like Omazio's timeline doesn't exist, so he's not gonna get that order, and like I don't think Sogo would ever order. But White Waz, on the other hand, like he seems to have a lot more autonomy, where it's like he decides whatever is good in the moment. So if he feels like Black Waz would get in his way, I feel like Black Waz would fucking get axed super hard. Um, because like I don't feel like he's gonna wait for any orders, or even if Gates says like stop, he would fucking kill him if he thought like that's what needed to happen. Um, will it happen? I don't know. It's
I
interesting. I mean, like it's weird because like I
I
feel like
don't know.
White Waz would win, so like there's no reason he would do it. But then there's that like weird intro bit where it's like you see the intro and it's like there's three different Wazes. There's like normal Black Waz, and then there's White Waz, and then there's like Black Waz with like his hood up and the book is burning. And so I'm like, what the hell is
Yeah, I
going?
didn't think about that because that's been the opening since the beginning, but now I'm like,
Yeah, especially considering like once. like Omazio came back, he had a figure beside him. So I'm like, who is that? Is that the third Waz? Like, what's going on? Um, yeah.
It's the
So
opening next time.
I know the opening is interesting. Like the more interesting thing is like White Waz is insanely overpowered because I feel like the writer who shouldn't exist, who had the three watches, is gonna either be him. It's most likely gonna be him who takes out Amazio. Um,
Gates won't do it. He'll be like, fine, I'll do it myself.
yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I think that's sort of what they're building up to. But the thing is, like, then it becomes the situation of okay, who stops it? Because he's clearly gonna take out Amazio alone, which means Sogo's fucked. But like he's the main character, so he can't die. Therefore, like somebody else is gonna die, and like it might be Gates revived because like it's called Gates revived, but that just might be a name. Maybe it's just a throwback to Ryuki, where it's like, oh, it's Ryuki survive form or Night survive form. Um, yeah, it could just be a throwback. I think if Black Waz is gonna die, that's probably the time it's gonna happen. Um, the more interesting thing is like, I wonder what the Time Jackers are gonna do now because they basically can't do anything because White Waz can just take them all out. Like he constantly messes with their shit. Um, they're not even a threat. Like they're trying super hard. Like every like writers from the past, writers from the future, like weirdo, like double writer nonsense. Um, like alternate history shit, like getting actual writers to help them, and they're just overcoming them, like stupid Megazord battles. But like they're getting their ass kicked. So I wonder what's gonna happen with them.
They
Especially,
don't want Gates revive as the alternate king.
yeah, it's weird. Like you'd think they would be trying to team up, but I guess they tried that and Gates said no. Um, yeah, it is interesting. Especially, I think it's more that they don't like White Waz now, so they're probably not gonna team up with that guy anymore. Or we'll see. It'll be interesting. I mean,
Well,
like,
he has tried to kill them a number of times, so I don't blame them.
yeah, but he's never tried to like. Here's the thing: he went up against like Blue and Silver. He didn't go against Schwartz. So, like, until that happens, like, I feel like if Schwartz said, "Okay, we'll work with this asshole," the other two will come around. But like, once Schwartz is like, "Yeah, we can't work with this douchebag," um, I think like then White Waz literally will have to fight them too. I mean, Black Waz could still team up with them because he seems to be on an okay footing with those guys, which is weird because he's literally working for the guy they're trying to replace. But like, yeah, they seem to have an
Yeah.
okay dynamic. Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. What else happened? I mean, what did happen? Like Mondo's story was interesting. Um, I really like the moment where it's like, okay, are you really doing this just for your mom, or are you doing this because you want an answer? And that was relatively well done. Also, like his dad, um, I don't know, like he was okay, but he's mostly in monster form, right? Like it, I think it just
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
Quiz did a really good job in these two episodes of making himself be somebody I would want to watch a show with, which is pretty impressive. Um,
Show with him too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, like White Waz is interesting enough. Like he could lead his own thing too if they needed like backstory. Um, but it's like again, I feel like at this point, or like maybe White Waz is gonna be the mid-season villain. Maybe. I mean, it depends if they want to keep the Time Jackers as evil, because if they want to get rid of them, they're probably gonna get be gone by the mid season. If they want to turn good, then White Waz probably becomes the villain in the middle, and they either stay out of it to become the villains at the end, or they decide to help the good guys, and then we start their redemption arc. Any thoughts on what do you think might happen with the?
Um, not sure which of those will happen, honestly. Um, Jackers turning completely against White Waz, although I'm not sure if they'd join up with. Sorry, I'm not sure if they would join up with Sogo at all, given they're trying to replace him, only if it was like temporary, maybe, but not permanently.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of another one of those like Bugster situations where it's like either White Waz becomes like Kronos or something, where it's like everybody decides to team up to fight this one jackass, um, or it's like either that's the temporary alliance or it's the start of their redemption. It'll be interesting either way. Um, as for like the show right now, I mean it's in a good place. Like you have character introspection where it's like, okay, what should I be doing? Is this the right path? Um, hey, is this how I should be using the stuff at my disposal? Like Gates was actually really smart this episode because he realized that like White Wasp can fuck with the timeline, so he just used him to basically counter anything. Like first he set it up so like another quiz would fight in like an abandoned place, and then he made sure that like, okay, well, if another quiz is defeated, then like um Silver will definitely show up. Okay, I don't remember their names, that's why I'm just calling them by colors. um
I
yeah,
think or Aura. I don't ask me how to spell it. The spellings on the subs keep changing.
yeah. um
Silver is blue.
okay, yeah.
I don't know what to call him.
Yeah, he is. That's why I'm just doing colors because, like, okay, doesn't matter which subs you follow, you
That
know,
is fine.
you know which one I'm talking about. Um, so yeah, and then he writes that basically she can't do anything to Gates. That was pretty awesome. And then like basically, I guess like White Waz like used his ability to like knock her aside, because like she tries to stop Gates, but it doesn't work. But then like Gates doesn't do anything, and she goes flying. And I'm like, okay, so like White Waz must have done something there. But like, there's no like cutaway to him blasting her or anything. So I'm like, all right, that happened, I guess. Um,
That was weird.
yeah, that was weird. But at least like they realized like, yes, this is the smart thing. Like even Sogo when he was fighting White was in like powered up. I mean, in his rider form, like used double, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of smart because like White was is pretty strong. So using like an attack that has like three rider kicks coming out is probably a good move.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that was smart. It didn't work, but at least he tried. Um, yeah. So final thoughts, or unless you have anything else to say.
Oh, I think this was a good episode overall. With some good character development. I'm looking forward to next week, even though I haven't seen Ryuki, but I feel like it'll be a good, well, hopefully, of what Ryuki is like. Also, alternate mirror Sogo. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So how should I put this? Ryuki is great. That alternate mirror Sogo thing. Okay, first of all, next episode looks fucking awesome, especially because like Ryuki is like basically my favorite rider show. Or at least one I would qualify as number one right now. The alternate mirror stuff, it's actually pretty interesting that that's finally happening because it's like as much as Sogo said, like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure like the future never comes to pass. to Amazu. Like he hasn't, and like as much as he acknowledged that like other people have other plans to make different reality and different futures come true with Black Waz, like he hasn't really done much. I think with like
Yeah.
alternate mirror Sogo showing up, uh hopefully he finally gets like Gates basically these last two episodes finally got his thing of like, okay, I gotta do shit my way, and I finally believe that he says that. I mean, when he says that now, um, whereas Sogo, I think, still needs to kind of like decide what the hell he wants to do, because
Yeah.
like it's not like he can't keep relying on power ups to save his ass, because like that's not gonna work, because even if you get your power up, you're gonna take away a hero's power up, right? Like even Gates decided not to do that. So like Sogo has to learn that sometime. Um but yeah, I mean like as for if you want to watch like Ryuki's movie is like basically kind of an alternate universe sort of thing. Um and then like Mirror Ryuki shows up in that, or Mirror Shinji.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch that, you can, because that's basically it's sort of like an alternate take on the show. Um, so it's basically standalone enough that you don't need to know anything about the show if you want to watch it. I guess.
Check that out.
Yeah. If not, it should be fine because these episodes tend to do a okay enough job writing their own plots, because they're not exactly tying in 100% to the shows anyway, so it should be fine. I mean, I'm just interested to see these actors and Ryuki back, because like Ryuki is a very interesting show, and like his main writer is like very interesting because he's not the best. That's literally his character, is like, I'm not the best dude for this. I'm just a guy who basically wants to help people. Not in like an edgy or Kuga way, where I mean edgy or oh my god, names. Okay, yeah. So Kamen Rider Kuga like wants to help people, and then like Agito wants to like protect people. He kind of does it on instinct because Agitos kind of do that. Um but then like Shinji is just a dude who wants to help people, but he's always over his head. Like that's his whole character
Mm.
arc, and it's kind of great because like throughout the whole show, everybody's yelling at him. It's like, you idiot! Like you have no idea what you're doing. You're just going to get your dumbass killed. Like get out of my way! You're just fucking our battle up. Like they're constantly berating him, but like as the show goes on, like he rubs off on people, and it's like he actually makes them better human beings. And so like he's just basically he's Kamen Rider. I don't know exactly how to do this, but I'll try to save people anyway. So he's great. Um,
I
spe-
like that.
yeah, he's really interesting. I mean, he's kind of a little obnoxious. The way he like pouts. And he does this like thing with his face in like the first couple episodes, but he knocks that off pretty quick, and then you could actually see like how good all the actors in Ryuki are. So yeah, Ryuki is pretty fun. It's basically like it's probably like the best mix of like writer tends to do this like, oh, there's like the normal life stuff. I mean, not so in this show, but like previous shows where it's like, oh, here's the slice of life stuff, and then here's the writer stuff. And like Ryuki's probably one of the best mixes of that. Like Ryuki and Faiz are probably the best mixes for that. Um, but Faiz is a hell of a lot more depressing than Ryuki is. Yeah, so Ryuki is interesting. I'm just glad to see these guys back. Especially getting all the old actors back. Like I feel like we're getting right, like it's been so long. I mean, because Ryuki's actors never reappeared in anything after Yuki, I don't think he's come back for any of the movies or anything. So it's nice to see him back, or at least anybody from Ryuki. Um, well, that's not true. I guess like uh, God damn. In the B special, Kamen Rider Oja. So Asakura was there. But I think that's like the first Ryuki character we've gotten back in like basically since Ryuki ended. So yeah, that's impressive. Like the Blade guys are okay. They shot that something like commercial or something. I mean, they've come back a couple
Yeah,
times.
complete CSM Blade belt. Yeah, they're probably coming back.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying Blade is amazing, and I'm like, let me just put that on my to watch list.
Blade is amazing, but
Eventually, I am watching Deno now.
yeah, Deno is one of those ones I like like decade like podcast decade. Um, he's I think the only one of us who's seen like all of the Heisei shows. I haven't seen Deno, but that's because like I saw like the first episode of Deno, and I'm like, nope, this show is not for me. Um, and then Forze is like, I'm like, no, on principle, like I cannot watch this show because Kamen Rider in high school and this nonsense, I am not dealing with this shit. So I don't care if it's good. That's just one of those on principles I'm not watching. But Blade is interesting because it's okay. There's a problem in early Blade. I mean, there's like two major problems in Blade. Um, one's in the beginning arc, one's in the middle. Um, the beginning arc is it's gonna start out and there's gonna be Tachibana, and he's Kamen Rider Garen. He's gonna have a very interesting arc, but the problem is unless you're willing to just go with it and be like, okay, the show will explain later on, it's gonna get really annoying because you're like, okay, Tachibana, stop being a whiny little shit. Like, get off my screen. Why are you wasting so much of my time, right? But if you're like, okay, I want to see where your story goes, then like maybe a third of the way or like a quarter of the way through the show, you actually figure out what his deal is. And basically, his deal is like he's the Kamen Rider who thinks he's past his prime. So he thinks he's falling apart, literally. So, basically, if you give it time, and like this is the problem that Vashi had, where it's like I like stop being so whiny, Tachibana, because you're expecting like, oh, it's a writer show. He's just gonna be any other writer. It's like no, like he's been doing this Kamen Rider shit, and he thinks he's basically hit a brick wall and he's gonna drop dead any second, and that's why he's acting like this. But you don't know that until like a little bit later on in the series, and that's why like that beginning part's a little rough. Um, there's another problem in the middle where it's like you get one of the newer writers, and then he has a story arc, but the problem is the story arc kind of is like a little too long for its own good, and it turns to be like, okay, we did his whole character arc, he's good now, right? It's like, no, reset and repeat, and it's almost and it's like, why would you do this? And it just feels like padding. I mean, like, they're not bad, it's just it literally feels like, okay, you did the arc and you're doing his character. Oh, but he's not. We still have episodes to fill, so just do a redemption arc, but a different redemption arc. And they're both good. It's just really annoying to have them both back to back. So that's one of the other problems. So that kind of gets a little long in the middle, but it's not too bad. It's just like, you just kind of have to acknowledge it and blow past it. Like they both end really well, or I mean, like it like their ending is good. It's just that arc's like middle part tends to drag. And then the other thing is like Blade kind of had like a writer switch over thing. I mean, like a couple of writer shows have had that. Like Hibiki is like the poster child of what not to do, where it's like you basically throw out like all the creative staff and the show just tanks. Well, I mean, it doesn't tank. It just takes such a drastic turn into whatever Toei and Bandai wanted that it contradicts the show it was before. But Blade doesn't do that. What it does is like, okay, all the shit that the previous writer set up, right? I'm basically almost not gonna add anything for the last arc. It's all just gonna be payoff. And so like it, Blade has like a really good end. Like that's the whole reason. Like everybody, like most people like Blade is because it like its ending is so well done. For the most part, like it ramps up really well near the end. Um, and it plays like it's like okay, we've set up the world. Now everybody just has to deal with all the shit that's going on in it, and that's kind of the interesting. The other interesting thing with Blade is like it's a lived-in world. Like it's basically one of the first like Heisei shows that feels like other Kamen Riders exist in this world, because they keep talking about, hey, is that guy like that weird urban myth thing of like those masked rider or masked hero dudes? And there's people with like bionic arms and other random stuff like that going on. Then
Oh,
yeah, it's interesting. Like Blade has a very interesting feel for a show. So yeah, like even if you don't dig it, just watch it just for the feeling. Because also it's basically like the first Rider show that had like a collectathon gimmick, but it basically doesn't acknowledge it at all because like it has four riders and they all have like 13 cards each. So it's basically one of these like collect the power ups thing of rider shows that we've gotten lately, but like the way they handle it is so much better. Like maybe O's is the only other show that handles its collectathon better. So yeah, it's very interesting. Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I
maybe
mean,
I'll check that out after Deno instead of Kiva. We'll see.
I mean Kiva's good too. It's just Kiva's a very different beast. Like basically, Blade is very good because it builds a world and then like all the characters have to deal with it. Kiva is a very interesting character drama. Like Blade is a very interesting writer show. Kiva is a very interesting just character thing. Because like the writer stuff is okay. It's got really nice designs. But the overall plot is just kind of like, okay, whatever, man. Like we're fighting because we're fighting these monsters. Um, but Kiva's more interesting thing is like you're here for the characters and you're here just to like hang out with them and watch their story. So that's the thing. So
Okay.
it depends on what you want to do. Like there's no rush. Pick whichever one you want.
No.
Um, yeah.
It was
Um,
nice talking to you.
yeah. Thanks. I think that's everything I had to say on this show. Where is? Oh, right. It's on. Yeah, I'm using a different player. Anyway, so final thoughts on Zi-O this episode. Yeah, really solid. It seems like the plot's finally moving. Characters, like literally every character, had like a good scene in this, which is amazing. Um, and as soon as the show decides how they want to handle Soga, which seems like next episode might be the final like catalyst to really start his character arc. It might actually hit like its full run. Like it's doing pretty good. It's just I think like it seems like next episode is really gonna kick it up a notch if we start getting Sogo character development also. Yeah, but with that, thanks for joining us, everyone. Um, Catch us next week for more Super Sentai podcasts on Tuesday and more Zi-O podcasts on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Same for the Sentai one. Yep. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.